All righty, welcome back. It is the Chico Borman Show here on this Friday. Good to have you along. And again, apologize for the delays. We're having some internet connection issues. I'm sure our engineer on site is all over it, taking care of it, along with our program director. And hopefully we'll get everything ironed out here. But we are scheduled to have Miles Simmons from Pro Football Talk coming up top of the hour. And we do apologize to Bill Landis. He understood, but we had to cut him short. Had a few more questions we want to ask him. But, yeah, I was right in the middle of asking him about the all of the uproar over Ryan. And I understand. I think we've discussed this before. I understand that fans are going to feel the way they feel, and I understand the immediate reaction is, oh, my God, you've got to get rid of him. Hopefully after a day and after some of the alcohol sweats out of your pores, you realize that's stupid. Now, is he on the hot seat? Absolutely. He loses next year again. Now you're starting to have that conversation. I don't think you do it right now. First of all, if you're going to make a decision like that, and I always say this with any coach, with any firing, like, you better have a plan. You got to have a plan for who are you bringing in? And I don't want to hear just, well, you just elevate somebody it's got to be much more than that. This is Ohio State. And for those of you that have said time and again, like, oh, well, you call up Mike Vrabel. You heard Anthony Schlegel on Monday. Like, it sounds good. And look, Mike Vrabel absolutely loves Ohio State, absolutely bleeds scarlet and gray, absolutely loves his alma mater. But I'm always amazed at the people that think that, like, that's got to be everyone, especially an alum, their number one priority. The dude's got a really good job right now in Tennessee. The guy's got a great job in Tennessee. He's... you only have 32 of those jobs. Nashville's a pretty nice city. Okay, they've had some bumps along the way the last couple of years, but by no means are you looking at that and saying, well, he's ready to roll. He's ready to come to Columbus. And the way things have changed now, with everything going on with the with name, image, likeness, I don't know if this is something that he just necessarily says, yeah, sign me up, let's go. Now, you've heard people say, well, you have the alumni base, you have all that money, you can just give him whatever he wants. If it's 10 years, $100 million. Mel Tucker got 10 years, $100 million. Mike Vrabel could very easily say, nope, that's still not enough. And again, I know the sentiment is, well, you love Ohio State, you got to come back. Doesn't work that way. I'm not making excuses for Ryan Day. Like, that was a huge disappointment. But I do think this is a guy that gets it. And I think the other thing that we're losing sight of before we bring in Miles Simmons with Pro Football Talk, the other thing that I think we're losing sight of with the Ryan Day situation and the Ohio State versus Michigan situation, of course you've got to win these games. But we've got to remember, this is not Michigan from 10 years ago, okay? These are now, like, championship caliber teams. And we can joke, we certainly have, about, well, what about the sign stealing scandal and what about all of that? And, did they do things the right way? I mean, no. There's going to be consequences for that. And that's not the reason necessarily Ohio State lost. How much of it did affect, I don't know. But these teams, from a talent standpoint, they are much better than anything they've seen in Ann Arbor in years, okay? Those defensive guys are very, very talented. Now, I still think Ohio State had the most talent on the field that day, last Saturday, but, you're now all of a sudden you're playing the margins. Like, you can't and in games like this, we've talked about it so many times. You talk about it every week. We're going to talk about it with the Browns and the Rams. But those margins and those little things are huge things when it comes to turnovers. If Kyle McCord, and I'm not trying to, dump on him here, but if Kyle McCord doesn't throw that interception, and it's not early in the game, and it doesn't give them basically 6 points, then who knows how this thing plays out. I mean, clearly it got the crowd riled up. It got their team riled up. They were already, ready to just go bonkers with the whole situation and being at home and it being Ohio State. That added a little bit of fuel. The other thing I'll say, too, is, Will Johnson, I think Joel Klatt or somebody talked about it before the game. I think it was Urban Meyer during halftime. Will Johnson is one of the best DBs in the country. He made a great play. I mean, it was not a great throw and ill-advised by Kyle McCord, or at least where he put the ball. But Will Johnson, when he had to, stepped up and made a play. So, anyway, the eulogy, we're expecting a great eulogy from Bill Landis, but hopefully we'll get there eventually. Again, the Browns getting set to take on the Los Angeles Rams coming up this Sunday at SoFi just after 4 o'clock. First kick. Browns coming in at 7-4 after that loss to Denver. Losing to Denver wasn't necessarily a crime, but how you lost to Denver and the fact that the game plan seemed wonky right off the get-go. It didn't feel right. But then the injuries continued to mount. And we still don't know, as we sit here on Friday, again, being behind, they are out in L.A., we still don't know who's going to be on the practice field today. We still don't know if, is Myles Garrett going to be at least a limited participant? What's Denzel Ward's situation? And these are very, very key injuries that we need to know about. So, we'll see what happens with Denzel, with Myles. Joe Flacco is going to get the start. We were loving, at least, hey, we can't glean a whole lot from practice when Amari Cooper says, you look at this guy and his drop back is poetry in motion. That's something. I mean, we're looking for something to grasp onto, right? So maybe that's it. All right. Hopefully, we're going to get. Fingers crossed here on Miles Simmons. Hopefully, we have enough bandwidth, if that's the issue, or cord, or whatever it is. But Miles Simmons with there we go. We got him. Yep. There he is. So anyway, Browns and the Rams again coming up this Sunday, and Browns desperately needing that win after not getting one in Denver. Like I said, no real crime losing in Denver. It's a game that I think a month and a half ago, a lot of people looked at Denver, a lot of people looked at the Rams and said, oh, those are very winnable games. Yeah, but things have changed a little bit. The Browns found that out last week. Granted, some of it their own doing, and of course the Rams, they're right back in it, and they've got one of the best coaches in the league in Sean McVay. And with that, we head out to the West Coast. Miles Simmons, native Clevelander, now out in SoCal. He does great work with Pro Football Talk. Also catch him, as I did yesterday for a bit, on the Pro Football Talk Live with Peter King podcast. Miles, let me start with this, buddy. Always great to talk to you. Are you a bit, I don't want to say confused, divided? Because I know you're a native Clevelander. You're now out in SoFi. What do you make of this game? And are you pulling one way or the other? Is it just the journalistic hat with the the objectivity? I don't think you can hear me. Miles, you got me?
It shouldn't be an internet thing.
Yeah, I don't. Who knows what it is at this point? Did he drop off? Okay. All right, we'll take a break. We're going to try to figure this out. Let's try to actually be able to troubleshoot something for once and get our guest up. Anyway, we'll be back with more Chico Borman Show right here on the Big Play Sports Network. All righty, welcome back. And again, sorry for that interruption. We had some technical difficulties we've been dealing with for a couple of hours now, but I think we got it ironed out. Miles Simmons joining us, as I told you, doing great work with Pro Football Talk. You can also catch him on the Peter King podcast. I heard him a little bit yesterday. Has done great work out there. Has joined Mike Florio on Pro Football Talk. Been a long time, a long way from Cleveland, Ohio. Miles Simmons, great to catch up with you, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I don't know what the heck is going on over here. Maybe it is just the Wi-Fi in Los Angeles. I don't know, but I am glad to be joined with you now, and also that I can hear you. That's actually much better.
So let me start with this then. You're a native Clevelander. You've been out there for a while, so I'm sure you've developed an affinity for the Rams. Are you struggling with this one as this one nears kickoff on Sunday afternoon?
Sure. I mean, I have obviously long-standing ties to the Cleveland Browns. As I like to say, it is my birthright to be a fan of that team. But the Los Angeles Rams employed me for 5 years, and I still have very good relationships with a lot of people in their buildings. So, yeah, this is a weird one. I'm glad this only happens basically once every 4 years because it's just one of those weird times where it's like, I put on Twitter, it's the Larry David from the Palestinian chicken episode of, Curb Your Enthusiasm, where he's like looking off to one side and he looks off to the other. And it's like, you don't really know what it is that you want to do. But yeah, that's kind of the way I feel this week. Although I guess I'm kind of leaning toward the Browns.
I'll tell you what, any quotes coming from Seinfeld or Curb Your Enthusiasm, I mean, you just went. Now, I didn't think you could go up any further with the stock, but you just did. All right, let me start with the Browns here, bud. And I mean, my goodness, what a season this has been throughout the entire NFL, but certainly for the Browns. So here's a team that I guess, Miles, if I told you that here we are, it's week 13. The Browns would be without Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb, Jack Conklin, possibly, Myles Garrett, we hope is going to be okay this week. But, I mean, just take those three. Would you think there is any possibility this team is sitting at 7-4 and still very much in the playoff hunt in the AFC?
Certainly not. And, it's interesting because when Nick Chubb went out, and that was so unfortunate and such a gruesome injury, and you hate to see it happen to anybody, but especially a guy who is as good and who is beloved as he is in that locker room, that really can affect the team for the rest of the year. But then it's kind of like, all right, well, this is why the Browns acquired Deshaun Watson, right? This is why you go out and trade for somebody who you think can be an elite quarterback. And then he starts to show some signs of that against the Baltimore Ravens in that second half, completing all of his passes, leading the Browns to that victory. And then for him to also go out, that really is such a significant blow. But I really think it's a credit to Kevin Stefanski, to Andrew Berry, and the really the culture that they have now set and the program that they've started to really develop with the Browns. I mean, this is just not something that we've seen since 1999, where a team is actually, cohesive and in, year 4 of the program. And it's like, okay, even though a lot of bad things have happened and injuries have happened, we can withstand it and we can still win games. And I don't think it's out of the question for the Browns to make it to the postseason at all because of the kinds of things that they have developed in-house. So, yeah, I really do think it's a credit to the leadership. And, I know that things go back and forth every week about Kevin Stefanski's play calling and all this. But if you look at the overall big picture, it really is remarkable what the Browns now have established over the last few years.
Well, and let's go back. Obviously you've been out in California, so I think I'm always interested in this kind of perspective. For a while, like when the Browns made the playoffs in that COVID year, and I think it was largely you had a national – whoever your team was, I think people could look at the Browns and go, you know what, good for them. They've been through hell for 2 decades, and those fans and all that. I get the sense that now, with the way things played out, expectations that every year people are tired of hearing about, they're going to be a playoff team this year, and then they fall flat. And then, of course, Deshaun Watson, that signing. It feels like now they don't have that love in the bank that maybe they had from previous years. Would you agree or disagree?
Well, yeah, and I think the acquisition of Deshaun Watson and everything that goes into that, and the fact that you paid him $250 million guaranteed, certainly is a factor in all of those different things. But I also think that when you're in as competitive a conference as the Browns are in the AFC, and competitive as a division as you're in the AFC North, I mean, look, this is a division that has the Cincinnati Bengals, who I think everybody expected to be really, really good this year. And they probably would have been really good if not for the two separate injuries to Joe Burrow, dealing with the calf at the beginning of the season. Then now he's out for the rest of the year with the wrist. You always expect the Steelers to be pretty good because they've never finished under 500 under Mike Tomlin. Right? You understand what's going to happen with the Baltimore Ravens because they're going to be competitive as long as Lamar Jackson stays healthy. So I think that when you look at it from that perspective too, it's kind of like, well, who would you pick out of those teams to continue to be good, as opposed to the Browns, who have historically over the last 25 or so years, whatever you want to call it, been not so very good, right? And then you factor in all the different injuries and all this stuff like that's what makes it different, I think. But you still have guys that have a lot of respect nationally, like a Myles Garrett. I mean, it's nice. My outlet that I work for in Pro Football Talk, and my employer, as you mentioned, has been naming him as somebody that could be a defensive MVP.
We've liked that here, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Well, but it's because, when you are going to start four quarterbacks, I mean, provided that Dorian Thompson-Robinson doesn't practice today, which I don't think anybody thinks he really is going to, coming off the concussion. But the Browns are going to start four quarterbacks this year, right? And you're now in a situation where, especially if you beat the Rams, you're going to have be in the driver's seat for a playoff spot. All right. And if that happens, then why in the world would you make it there? Well, because you have somebody as good as Myles Garrett who can help power things defensively. And that's why he then becomes a part of that conversation. Now, I don't really think that that's very realistic unless Myles Garrett continues to just go off and he gets like 22 sacks. Like, then maybe we'll be able to really have that conversation. But there are elements where the Browns do have respect, especially on defense this year with how good they've been.
Miles Simmons, Pro Football Talk, is our guest. Chico Borman Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. What is a realistic ask this week from Joe Flacco, Miles?
Manage the game, right? And I think that it's not just, okay, he's a veteran, so he should be able to do X, Y, and Z. And, we've seen Josh Dobbs go to different places this year, and he's been able to pilot offenses. I mean, the whole debate of is Joe Flacco elite? I mean, he's not elite anymore. Look, he's 38 years old, and he's not been a consistent starter for years now. But I think if he manages the game well, right? If the Browns are able to run the football against a pretty good Rams defense, they're just young. I mean, they still have Aaron Donald, but you've got to be able to run the ball against them in order to beat them, and you control the clock. That, I think, is realistic. Just get the ball to Amari Cooper where it's supposed to be and when he is supposed to be there, right? Joe, they still have a little chemistry left over from that time with the Jets with Elijah Moore. Let's see if that can happen. But just be a steady presence and don't turn the ball over. Manage the game. That's the way the Browns really were going to win anyway, especially with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I mean, that's a rookie quarterback. He's a fifth-round pick. Doesn't have the high draft expectations, even though he does have sort of a lot of playing experience from college. It's different. Right. So if you have an NFL caliber quarterback, and hopefully Joe Flacco is still one of those, then you make the plays when they are there to be made. He shouldn't probably be throwing for over 200 yards, because if he is, it means the Rams have been able to get things going offensively, and you are trying to come back, right? If you get him to around 175, 185 yards on around 20-ish throws, that's probably where the Browns want to be, because it means that their run game is effective, their defense has been effectively stopping Matthew Stafford and that Rams offense, and then you can control the game that way.
Miles, being objective here, I look at this game coming up on Sunday, and I was mentioning this when we were coming in with you the first time, so you might not have heard it. But, about a month and a half ago, you looked at the schedule, and you said, you know what, Denver should be a winnable game. It's never easy to win in Denver, but should be a winnable game. They're struggling, and the Rams, that should be now all of a sudden, we saw what Denver did to them. And this Rams game has me scared, very nervous, because I like what Kevin Stefanski decided to do in staying out there. Give us an idea of the Rams are still kind of hanging around, and they've got Sean McVay and they've got Matthew Stafford. What's making this group tick right about now?
Well, and the other thing that they've got right now is Kyron Williams. So young running back, second-year guy out of Notre Dame, and he came back off of an ankle injury last week and had the best game of his career. He was catching passes, he was running it, over 150 yards from scrimmage, a couple touchdowns against the Arizona Cardinals. And yeah, the Arizona Cardinals are not that great of a football team, and he has had his two best games this year against the Cardinals. But I think when you see what the Rams offense can do when you have an effective running back, it's kind of like what they did years ago when Todd Gurley was the guy kind of piloting that Rams offense. And you also had Jared Goff, and he was playing well. It really adds an entirely different dimension. So if the Browns can't contain Kyron Williams, then the Rams are going to win this game. They might win it easily because who knows how much production you're going to be able to get out of the offense if you are the Browns. But if you can contain that run game, try to make them a little bit more one-dimensional. And yeah, they've still got great receivers in Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, the sensational rookie out of BYU. You still are going to have a better chance to win. But I really think that Kyron Williams being back and being effective is one of these things that just makes the Rams really, really dangerous. And especially given how wide open the wild card race is in the NFC behind the Cowboys right now, I can absolutely see the Rams claiming one of those two wild card spots, whether it's the 6th seed or the 7th seed.
And, Miles, as you know, we're talking to Miles Simmons with Pro Football Talk. As you know, Jim Schwartz is one of the best in the league as a defensive coordinator and play caller, very aggressive. You go into this game, and this is where Sean McVay this is one of the best, I think, at maybe using that aggressiveness against you. He's going to, different formations, different looks. What are the Browns looking at for the defensive side of the ball as far as trying to get that pressure on Matthew Stafford and company?
Yeah, it depends on how well the Rams' offensive line is going to play. And they've had some fluctuations with different guys going in and going out with injuries and stuff like that. But I think you really see it. If Matthew Stafford is protected, he's going to be able to throw the ball well. If he's not, then he won't. And it's kind of been that way over the last couple of years with the LA Rams. Last year, that's why they were so bad. Their offensive line was in absolute shambles. And that ended up being a big factor in why a lot of different people got hurt. So then Baker Mayfield comes in and gets a couple of wins. But it's not like things were really, really going all of that well for the Rams in general, which is evidenced by their 5-12 record. But yeah, I think one of the other interesting elements of this, and it's kind of maybe been a little bit underplayed this week, is Jim Schwartz obviously coached Matthew Stafford for years and years and years. Now, that was a long time ago, but I think that there are still some elements of familiarity there that can help either side, right? Whether it is Jim Schwartz knowing the tendencies of Matthew Stafford or Matthew Stafford knowing the tendencies of what Jim Schwartz likes to run in certain situations. So that's one of these things that, is the part of the chess match that will be on Sunday.
Couple things from around the league before we cut you loose, and we appreciate your time as always, buddy. Watching last night, and it's funny, we have these MVP discussions, and, it feels very wide open, right? Jalen Hurts, hey, they're 10-1, and while he hasn't lit the world on fire, he certainly hasn't played poorly by any stretch. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, if you want to go down quarterback. All of a sudden, we're watching that game last night, and Miles, it's almost like, when do we start talking about Dak Prescott in this conversation? Because that guy, tip of the hat, man. I didn't know if he had it in him to come back the way he has, but he is playing lights out right now.
Yeah, he really is. And, I didn't really know if he had it either. I mean, I don't necessarily thought of Dak Prescott as one of these elite guys. I kind of don't. And I don't mean that necessarily as an insult. I think there are only, three, maybe four elite quarterbacks in the rest of the league. But he's kind of on that tier that's like right below that. And that's sometimes because of the consistency. The ball placement sometimes just is not there where it needs to be. The situational awareness. Think about the last third down that Dallas faced late in that game, where it's okay. All you need to do is make sure the clock keeps running. And even if it's not wide open on that throw down there in the red zone, then you need to take a sack. Like those are the kinds of things that you see from quarterbacks, where you just need to know everything about the situation. Those are those kinds of things where I'm like that whatever. But I think if you look at the totality of how he's played, you look at his numbers, and you look at them compared to these other quarterbacks that are really part of that group, then you kind of got to look at it and say he's really a part of this conversation. And it's interesting because most of the time the quarterback of the number one seed from either the AFC or the NFC is going to win that MVP race. Good point. There is no more important goal, I think, sports the quarterback of the team, no more valuable quarterback of the team. But I think if Dak Prescott leads the Cowboys to, let's say, the second best record in the conference behind the Eagles, right? And even if the 49ers 2 seed and Dak the Cowboys 5 seed, I can seriously make the argument that Prescott be the MVP of the National Football. Certainly, there's still a lot more out in this year, but the Eagles have done things in such a way where it's like every win is a team win. Jalen Hurts has not been as consistent as I think some would expect. They're still 10-1, so who cares? But Dak Prescott really is leading this Dallas Cowboys offense. I think it's interesting when Mike McCarthy, as head coach, goes back calling plays, and they get rid of Kellen Moore. And I thought that it might allow McCarthy and Prescott to have a better connection. And elevate that offense some way, because you have your head coach who's more connected of the game on every single offensive snap. It turns out that's been what's happened. I like how they've been going to Lamb more to. So yeah, I can see Dak Prescott really making an imprint in this conversation if Dallas used to win.
Miles, there is a few more things I wanted to get to, but unfortunately, it's been one of those days, technically speaking. It's not on your end, it's on our end. I was so looking forward to this interview, and we were able to get some good stuff from you, but right now it's almost inaudible, so I don't want to waste any more of your time, but I hope that we can hook up again real soon, because, again, I love your work, been following you since you left Cleveland. You've been doing a hell of a job, and love your work with Pro Football Talk, but sorry for the technical difficulties. You know what it's all about, my man. You're giving me that smile, but thank you for your time, pal.
Hey, I appreciate it. We'll connect again, and hopefully it'll work better next time.
Okay, sounds good. Again, Miles Simmons with Pro Football Talk. We're going to take a break. I feel like Darth Vader or something right now. We'll take a break. We'll try to figure out whatever's going on. And yeah, it's Chico Borman Show. More to come right here in the Big Play Sports Network. Alrighty, welcome back. It is the Chico Borman Show here on a Friday. Good to have you along. And, well, I don't know how much of the Miles Simmons interview you could make out. I just texted him. We're going to be able to hook up with him again soon. He did have some good stuff before the line started to get a little frayed there. But I thought it was interesting talking about this Sunday's game and Joe Flacco and what's a realistic ask. Yeah, game manager. And, you know, so many times, I mean, we've had this discussion so many times. Everybody throughout the country has had this discussion so many times. The game manager has that connotation of, well, you know, they're not doing anything. They're not really helping your team win. They're just not helping them, or not contributing to a loss, and just trying to be smart with football. Look, sometimes that's enough. And in his first start in a few years, well, he was I think he did start a game last year, a couple actually last year, so I shouldn't say that. But a guy that was basically sitting on the couch. Now, he said keeping himself ready. As if we're going to go on what Amari Cooper said yesterday, if we're to go on what some others said, he looked great. Poetry in motion, dropping back in the pocket. We'll take it. That's a win. Somebody was asked on a scale of 1 to 5, what is his arm strength? And I think it was Alex Van Pelt that said it. Alex Van Pelt was asked, the Browns offensive coordinator, on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rank Joe Flacco's arm strength? And he said 5. He's like, he's got it. Now, you know, I don't think he would say 2, but maybe we are going to see. It's not going to, you know, we're not asking him to do this for a long period of time. I always say backups are backups for a reason. It's kind of like I love the Josh Dobbs story. I love Josh Dobbs, period. But, you know, he's starting to struggle. Why? Because backup quarterbacks there's a shelf life for them. And I don't mean for their career. I'm talking shelf life for a season. That's why, you know, nowadays, if you need your backup quarterback to go beyond, say, 4 or 5 games, you could be in trouble. The teams start to figure you out. Teams figure out tendencies, and they're going to play on those tendencies. And that's what great defensive coordinators do. But I think with Flacco, the number one thing is, you're going to be going into, it's going to be a hostile environment for the few that actually go from LA. But, you've got a team that's feeling pretty good. Kyron Williams, that's the guy that Nick Shook mentioned on Tuesday, Bohm. What did he say? It's not just on the ground. He'll hurt you through the air. He can be that safety valve. He can kind of, little delay and then swing out of the backfield. They are a guy like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who has just been absolutely tremendous this year, is going to have to come up big again. You hope that the pass rush, and that includes a healthy Myles Garrett or relatively healthy Myles Garrett, is able to put some pressure on Matthew Stafford. But you do have, those wideouts. You do have Cooper Kupp. You do have Puka Nacua. And you're just hoping that, that the Browns can eliminate turnovers, don't hurt themselves, and I think they can do just enough on offense to win the game. But again, if you start seeing turnovers, and that's been the story of this season, week after week after week, you can't consider yourself a real playoff team, as great as they have been and defying the odds. And look, no one is prouder of the fact that they're where they're at, considering all the circumstances and all the injuries and everything, more than I am and more than many of you fans are. But we're getting down to that critical point where, okay, you're the 6th seed, you just lost to Denver, you don't have a whole lot of margin for error, and therefore, and I'm talking margin for error as far as losses down the stretch. So that means your losses, margins for error during the games. These games beginning Sunday, you just cannot turn the ball over. You can't do it. So, be interesting to see. We don't know. I mean, we can sit here and speculate about Joe Flacco and, well, he was throwing bombs in practice the other day. The arm looks great. What's it going to look like when the bullets fly for real? I feel confident in that he's not going to be overwhelmed. And if you're not overwhelmed, you're not necessarily making a bad decision because you're flustered. I don't think you'll see that from Joe Flacco. Could he get picked off in the game? Sure, but I don't think it's going to be because, oh my gosh, I'm just not ready for this moment. And, the reality is you've got a lot of guys banged up. Amari Cooper, how effective is he going to be in this game? But make no mistake, this is one the Browns have to have. Coming off that loss to the Denver Broncos. All right, Bohm. Without further ado, let us get ready for Pick 6. Let me tell you first, it's brought to you by Tipico, and I switched this around. Little bit of a curveball with this week's Pick 6, but it's brought to you by Tipico. If you need bet credits for football season, the Big Play Network is presented by Tipico Sportsbook. Tipico Sportsbook app has your traditional bets like the money line, spread, and point totals, but you can also lock in player props and check out our Big Play boosts every single week to back your favorite Cleveland teams and athletes with the best odds in Ohio. Get in the action, load up for football season using promo code BIGPLAY100. Get $100 in bet credits on us, plus a $30 dog pound bet. Bet with the Big Play crew all season long with Tipico Sportsbook. All right, without further ado, Bohm, fire it up. It's time for Pick 6. All right, before we go in, Bohm, how you doing over there, man? I know it's been this isn't all. Hey, there are times where I blame you and I blame myself, and we had technical difficulties. You did everything you could. It's not on you. All right.
Rough day at the office.
Still my boy, man. You're my boy, Blue. All right. So Pick 6. Normally, Bohm, as you know, it's 2 from the college slate, 4 from the NFL. I decided to flip it this week because we have championship weekend. So let's go 4 championship games. I didn't include Michigan and Iowa. If Michigan can't beat Iowa, then for God's sake, I don't know what to tell everybody.
There was I forgot I wanted to show you. It was an AI Jim Harbaugh talking about Iowa.
I saw that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
The real conference championship was last Saturday.
Right. We don't have to worry about extending any of our resources because it's not like they do anything anyway.
We don't need any special ops for these guys.
Right. I mean, you could, I guess, it would be interesting to say, do you think that, I don't think Iowa covers. I know every week they've won and covered in these close games. I think they lose, and I think Michigan lays it on them. But, all right, anyway, so we're going to do 4 from the college slate and 2 from the pros, culminating still, as we always do, with the Browns who host the Rams, who are on the road against the Rams in L.A. We start tonight in Vegas. The city that never sleeps, Boom. They're not going to be sleeping tonight. I'm not going to be sleeping tonight until this game's over. I can't wait to watch this. Pac-12 championship game. Number 5, Oregon, is 11-1 on the season. They lost to Washington. Third-ranked Washington is undefeated, 12-0. Again, the game is in Vegas, but Washington, this is what I mentioned earlier in the show, Washington is a 10-point underdog. I have no problem. Let me say this. I have no problem with Washington being an underdog. But 10 points seems like, well, as we always say, somebody knows something that we don't know. Because we're still talking about an undefeated team and one of the best teams in the country. A team that they've already beaten. Now, again, understand Oregon has looked great as far as resumes go and as far as just eyeball test. You can they are definitely one of the best teams in the country, I think. Whether they get in is another story. But I'm going to go, I think Oregon wins this game. Your boy Dan Lanning. I think Oregon wins this game. But 10 points, I mean, I know they're begging you, and those always scare you when it seems like Vegas is begging you to take Washington. But how can I not take Washington getting 10 points? So, again, Oregon, I think, wins this game, but that spread is monstrous. What do you got?
Yeah, Chico. It's been a kind of hit and miss year for Michael Penix, where a lot of times he looks like he can be maybe the most dominant quarterback in college football. And then other times he puts out performances where it feels like he nearly cost his team a victory. I expect he's going to rise to the occasion because, frankly, he already did once this season. Now, granted, these are even greater circumstances. I'm going to take Oregon to win. I think Lanning is hopefully going to learn from those mistakes that he made in their first matchup. And
yeah, he better.
I think Oregon's the better team, but I pick Washington to cover.
Okay, so we're in agreement on that. Big 12 championship. This is one for those of you. And by the way, I guess for each game, we'll have a little sidebar as far as Ohio State, as far as what you're rooting for if you're a Buckeyes fan trying to get them in the playoff. You want Washington to beat Oregon. So the next one is the Big 12 championship. This is the biggie that I think a lot of us feel can't happen, but it could. It has to happen for Ohio State, and that is Oklahoma State has to upset Texas in the Big 12 championship. The Cowboys come in 9-3 on the season, ranked 18th in the country. They'll be playing this, of course, at Jerry's Funhouse in Arlington. And the Longhorns are ranked 7th in the country, 11-1. That only loss coming to Oklahoma, right? And they beat obviously Alabama early season. Like they're a team that if they win this game and say Alabama, that's when the committee's going to be. That's when they're going to be squirming a little bit. But anyway, Texas against Oklahoma State. The Longhorns are laying 15 points. I think I'm going to say the same thing I said last game. I think Texas wins this game, but I think Oklahoma State and your boy, Mike Gundy. What about your boy? I think your boy keeps it relatively tight. And I don't think it's going to be like a nail biter, but 10-13, 13-4, let's say 2 touchdowns. All right, Oklahoma State still covers. So Texas wins this game, but give me Oklahoma State getting 15 points.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Thank
No,
you, Bo. That was Mike Van Gundy, for those of you keeping track.
Not
at
Mike
home.
Van Gundy.
I said Mike Van Gundy.
That was Mike Gundy. Isn't it just Mike Gundy?
Oh, I said Van Gundy. Jeez, oh, man, yeah. I thought you said
one
it's
of the Van
Mark
Gundy
Van Gundy. And I'm
brothers.
like, no, it is Mike Gundy. I'm sorry.
Shout out to the Van Gundys. Yeah, I mean, 15 points is quite a big spread. I think that they're just going to love to mess with Ohio State fans' hearts and keep it within that 15-point spread, but Texas still walks away victorious.
Okay. SEC championship game. This will be Saturday, tomorrow at 4 o'clock. By the way, Oklahoma State, Texas is going to be high noon tomorrow. SEC championship game in Atlanta at the Mercedes Dome. Number 1, Georgia. I mean, they are on some kind of a roll, Kirby Smart's bunch is. 12-0, undefeated, ranked first in the country. Alabama, 11-1. Again, that only loss coming to Texas. And they are the 8th-ranked team in the country. Bama is getting 5.5 points, again, in Atlanta, in the Mercedes. So a bit of a home field advantage for Georgia, but still, Bama's going to travel. Well, Boom, I'll let you go first. Age before beauty. Oh, wait, that doesn't work, this one.
I'm definitely going to take Georgia in this one, and I think that's partly just because rooting interest. I think this is going to be a good battle, though, Chico. Hit me with that spread again.
Bama is getting 5.5 points.
I think Bama covers, but I'm taking the Bulldogs overall to win that one.
Okay. Yeah, I want to find. Here's the thing. I love what Jalen Milroe's done. I really do. I think he could have very easily. I would say very easily. I mean, he's on scholarship, but I mean, hey, at Alabama, all of that pressure, you struggle. You're not meeting expectations to start the year. You're disappointing not only the fan base but your teammates, and maybe even most importantly, Nick Saban, and that's hard to recover from. But it tells you, much like a Jalen Hurts and all of those other quarterbacks that have played for Nick Saban, you better be mentally tough. Jalen Milroe is mentally tough. Jalen Milroe has put together a great season. I mean, he's not going to get it, but basically put himself in the conversation at least when, you would have thought anything but. All right, I'm basically talking around this only because, no, Georgia, I think Georgia they're playing as well as they have all season long. Brock Bowers is back and healthy, has been a couple of weeks. Georgia's quarterback doesn't do a whole lot to excite me, but I just think right now, Kirby, that defense, if they make Alabama one-dimensional, I think they will to some degree. I think they roll. I'm going to say Georgia by 10, 13. So give me Georgia covering the 5.5.
Chico, I would just say with this matchup, of all the potential upsets, this one feels the most likely.
That's okay, Bohm. Hey, you wanted to make your point with that music behind it. I totally.
That's how you drive the point home.
Yeah, I totally understand it. You wanted to. No, let me just. Let me think about that. I'll tell you what. We'll circle back to that question after we finish pick 6. I think it's a good one. You think Bama is the most likely to happen as far as the upsets? ACC championship game as we continue on with pick 6, brought to you by Tipico. All right, here is what you feel for Florida State. Travis is out. Louisville at 10-2, ranked 14th in the country. You've got Florida State 4th in the country. They are undefeated. They are laying 1.5. This would be much more if their quarterback was healthy, Jordan Travis. But he is done. It's a really sad situation, not just because he's done, but there's a kid. A lot of times you'll see, oh, well, he's only been there 2 years, or, oh, well, he just came over in the transfer portal. This is a guy who bided his time and earned his stripes in Tallahassee, only to see it come to an end like this. Florida State's motivated. Florida State has a very, very good defense. And I think if they win, I don't care what if the committee puts somebody else in, there's going to be all kinds of hell. And I know what people say. Well, they got to put the best 4. But how can you not include Florida State if they win? That said, I don't think they're going to have that problem. I do think Louisville wins this game. They have at times had their ups and downs, but I think when they're cooking under head coach Jeff Brom, they've looked very good. Give me Louisville getting a 1.5, but give me Louisville winning outright in this game, in the ACC championship game. Who you got, Bo?
Certainly what I hope happens, but I don't think Donovan Mitchell and the Cleveland Cavaliers aren't going to be there to will that team to victory like they did in that upset against Notre Dame, Chico. I'm going to take Florida State. I think overall they just they have so much more talent than Louisville.
So Florida State's going to the playoff.
That's what I'm going to say.
I'd be happy with that. Honestly, I'd be happy with that, and I hope they do, because that's a devastating blow. You lose your quarterback like that, and
their first time in the playoffs since the Jameis days.
Yeah, and again, like I said about Jordan Travis, that his story kind of sticks with me, because again, it could have very easily, transfer guy, 1-year guy. No, he has worked his tail off. So I think at the very least, you'd like to see them get in. We'll see. All right, to the NFL we go. We flip this one again. At 4 from the college slate championship games to 2 in the NFL. Browns-Rams we'll get to in a second. The game of the week, without a doubt, the 49ers and the Eagles. 49ers are 8-3. They travel to the city of not-so-brotherly love. The Eagles are 10-1. Am I reading that right? Hang on a second. Let me verify something, Bone, because I want to make sure that let me check here with our boys at Tipico. Yes. The Eagles at home are 3-point underdogs to the San Francisco 49ers. Again, I'm going to circle back to Oregon, Washington with the 10 point, like that. Something's fishy there. Eagles I think they should. They say like if you're at home, you get what, 2 or 3 points anyway. So you're telling me on a neutral field, the Niners would be like 6-point favorites? Wow. The Niners are playing much better now. I'll tell you what. Give me the Niners. I think the Niners do win this game. I'm gonna say it's a 1-point ball game. So actually, I'll take the Eagles getting the 3, but the Niners win this one outright, like 27-26, something like late field goal by Jake Moody, the former Michigan Wolverine.
Chico, I think it's interesting that the Eagles are dogs in this game.
I'm shocked.
A lot of people would call them the best team in football, and obviously they have the best record in football. But at the same time, I feel like it's almost like they're a rich man Steelers. Like there are some games where they kind of like escape where maybe they shouldn't have won.
Yeah. They're not wowing anybody, that's for sure.
Yeah, now they have their moments, certainly, unlike the Steelers.
Right.
But I think San Francisco, when they're hitting on all cylinders, is the best team in the NFC right now. So I'm going to take them to cover that spread.
Like I could see if this game was in San Francisco. That's why I wanted to double check that maybe I had written it down wrong. If this game was in San Francisco, okay, I guess I could see the Eagles being 3. But that's part of me now wants to change my pick, because if you're the Eagles, you're going out, you're feeling disrespected right now. Like you're telling us that we're on our home turf and we are 3-point underdogs to the Niners. That's going to be a good game. All right, finally, last but not least, this is Browns got to have this one. They really do. Sitting in that 6th seed, Browns are 7-4, coming off a not-so-great loss to the Denver Broncos. They will take on the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are 5-6. The Rams also are 3.5-point favorites in this game. Bohm, I'll start with you.
You said 3.5-point favorites?
Yes.
Man, I don't want to pick against Cleveland. I feel bad about that.
This game has me nervous. It has me very, very nervous.
Yeah, and you know what? Like the last few times that I picked the opposing team outright, the Browns wound up pulling the upset. So maybe just for the sake of putting the kibosh on my picking ability, I'm going to pick the Rams here to cover that spread.
Okay, I'm actually going to I'm going to pick the Browns this week. I don't feel good about it, but I think Joe Flacco makes a couple of plays, but like I said, I don't think he has that big turnover. I don't think he is overwhelmed by the moment. I think I'm saying this with the idea that Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward are both going to play, and I don't think we're going to find that out until later on today. They practice out west. I don't anymore trying to glean, information from Berea about, and that's fine. I understand that's part of their job, but I'm going to say that those two play, and I'm going to say Flacco does what he needs to do in taking care of the football, managing that game, if you will, but is able to hit on a couple of plays down the field. So give me the Browns getting 3.5. We'll even go with a score here. Let's go Browns 23, Rams 21. That'll be my final. Browns 23, Rams 21.
A lot of questions with this game, Chico, and you hinted at all of them, but namely, I don't know what to expect from that quarterback position, and I don't know how whoever's at quarterback is going to.
You said you feel confident yesterday. You're waffling on your boy.
I don't even know if Flacco is officially starting.
He's starting.
Was it announced?
Well, I mean, he hasn't. DTR is not gonna. He's not gonna practice today. I doubt it. And even if he has, he hasn't taken the snaps yesterday and Wednesday.
Yeah,
it's Flacco.
I am optimistic about Flacco, but I wonder if there's a rust factor here. Not having an off season of preparation.
You didn't want to hear about that from me yesterday. No, I'm just kidding.
Glass half full. If it's Flacco trotting out there, I expect him to take good advantage of those playmakers that he'll have at his disposal.
Okay.
But I'm also worried about him taking a shot from Aaron Donald and how that's going to impact him.
Everybody's concerned about taking a shot from Aaron Donald. All right, let me go back. Final question, then we'll get out of here. Championship games this weekend, big ones. If you're a Buckeyes fan, again, you need Washington to beat Oregon. You need Oklahoma State to beat Texas. You need Georgia to beat Alabama. You need Louisville to beat Florida State. And you've got a shot at getting in. You said the upset that you think of the 4 games, we're not including Michigan and Iowa, of the 4 games that we picked, you felt like Alabama had the best chance to upset Georgia. I got to go with Washington. I think Washington, clearly they've beaten them before. I do think Oregon's playing their best ball of the year. I do think Oregon is one of the top 4 teams, but I mean, Washington's undefeated, and I kind of feel like they do have a chip on their shoulder, and they should, because it's like every week they're playing some of the best quarterbacks in the country. And, and I know their defense at times, but if it gets into a shootout, who do you trust, Bo Nix or Michael Penix? I know a lot of people point to Penix and say that he's probably the guy that, Penix, Jaden Daniels, well, not really. I don't know if Penix is. I'd say Bo Nix is probably a better opportunity to win it than Penix.
Right now, I would say so.
Yeah, Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels is probably who it's coming down to. But I do think Penix is a guy that it wouldn't shock me if he comes out and has a great game. So I think the best chance for an upset comes tonight in the Pac-12 championship out in Vegas. The Washington Huskies beat Oregon, and you say, wait a minute, they're 12-0, Oregon's 11-1, they've already beaten Oregon. Yes, but Washington is getting 10 points. Feels like they're begging you to take the Huskies. All right, go ahead, Bo.
I do think that that's fair to call that, to disagree and point out Washington. And I want to say also that I think if Penix does have an unbelievable performance, he could very well wind up being a dark horse in the Heisman.
Yeah.
And then the other case that you could make for the most likely upset, with Louisville going up against a backup quarterback, there's still a lot of unknown there. But for me personally.
See, I guess here's the thing. I look at Louisville, Florida State, and the line is kind of indicative of this as well. It's a 1.5 favorite. It's a pick'em game. I mean, it's a flip of the coin. So, if Louisville wins, I'm not going to be shocked. If Florida State wins, I'm not going to be shocked. I think it's the other games where you say, okay, you like Oregon, I think, is the better all-around team. I think Washington's got to be pretty pissed off that, they continue to get no respect, and now they're 10-point dogs. So it's going to be fun. Championship weekend, although it would have been much more enjoyable if Ohio State was in it. Well, what can you do, Bohm? I mean, only Thought the microphone broke there. That would only kind of cap off this show. All right.
No more fitting way to end this episode.
Exactly. That is Pick Six, again, brought to you by our friends at Tipico. If you need bet credits for football season, the Big Play Network is presented by Tipico Sportsbook. The Tipico Sportsbook app has your traditional bets like the money line, spread, and point totals, but also lock in player props and check out our Big Play boosts every single week to back your favorite Cleveland teams and athletes with the best odds in Ohio. Get in the action, load up for football season using promo code BIGPLAY100. Again, that's going to be $100 in bet credits on us, plus a $30 dog pound bet. Bet with the Big Play crew all season long with Tipico Sportsbook. Thanks to Bill Landis and Miles Simmons. Sorry for the technical difficulties. It happens. Hopefully our crack staff will be all over that, getting that fixed. Boom. Yeoman's work today, Boom. Yeoman's work today. Appreciate the effort, buddy. Have a good weekend. You good? All right, I just want to. That was specifically for you. Yes. And then to everyone else out there, be safe. We'll see if some upsets are able to happen. Go Browns. And hopefully we're talking about a Victory Monday coming up on Monday. I'm Mike Chico Borman. For all of us here at Big Play Sports, make it a good, safe weekend, everybody. See you.